Simultaneously joining the release of Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind, Famicom Detective Club, The Missing Heir receives a similar remake and localization treatment. From a release standpoint, The Missing Heir was actually the first entry in the Famicom Detective franchise, first launched on the Famicom Computer Disk System back in 1988. The Girl Who Stands Behind, released as a canonical prequel roughly a year later in 1989. Both games are collectively part of a duology, and although they share some connection in terms of the in-game universe and timeline, you can choose to play in whichever order may interest you, either by order of release or following the timeline chronologically, since there is a 2-year gap between the two games, and also because the cases are completely different.
誰かの声が聞こえる。お、気がついたか。しっかりするんだ、君。
As it's clear from the start of the title, Famicom Detective Club The Missing Heir is a detective adventure game. Although the adventure allows a great deal of interaction and speculation, it does ultimately follow the conventions of a visual novel, which is especially interesting since the release is a remake of what may have been perhaps the earliest example of the genre on home console. That being said, the remake effort goes a long way, almost an example of what visual novels and adventure games could look like if all studios had a Nintendo-sized production budget. Most like the remake of the other title, The Missing Heir makes excellent use of live 2D models which animate quite smoothly and have a convincing depth of 3D. The rest of the production matches up nicely too, with catchy background music and fully voiced characters. While the backgrounds can be a little on the basic side, they do feature some animation detail, and the simplicity makes them practical during the investigation process. Before even getting into the drama of the titular Missing Heir, the game's narrative begins with the protagonist who finds himself at the bottom of a cliff with none of his memories intact. This certainly throws a wrench into his work as a young detective, and so with the handicap of missing his memories, our hero needs to familiarize himself with the investigation work all over again, and above all, reintroduce himself to, well, himself. In the process of uncovering his own past, he must also make progress on his investigation of the many mysterious circumstances surrounding the ever-vibrant and dysfunctional Awashiro family. The Awashiro family is more than just a wealthy clan residing in rural Japan, as there is also a great deal of history and mythology surrounding them, and what's more, are the business side of things involving the powerful Awashiro Corporation. The investigation primarily revolves around the death of a former head of the family and corporation, Kiku Awashiro. Her passing was officially ruled as a heart failure, and so with the funeral long past, the timing of her death was still suspicious to the family butler, who ends up being the one hiring the amnesiac hero. The fact that Kiku's passing occurs almost immediately after she finalizes her will becomes the starting point of a layered family drama. The mystery surrounding Kiku's death thickens quickly, as it just doesn't involve the extended Awashiro family, but also doctors, lawyers, business partners, and all kinds of interconnected acquaintances. At the heart of it all is the titular Missing Heir herself, Yuri Awashiro, the estranged daughter of Kiko, who is perhaps the key to solving the opaque legend surrounding the Awashiro family symbol. As all of those different elements get introduced to expand the setting, soon enough murders begin to ensue, with the stakes getting more dire. The Missing Heir does a great job of building up its setting and the intrigue surrounding the extended Awashiro family and their acquaintances. In no time, our amnesiac protagonist finds himself in a twisted game of Cluedo. With the game being a product of its time, the characters aren't necessarily designed to be endearing or memorable. As fans of modern visual novels and adventure titles are probably used to seeing deeply emotive characters, but the writing of the presentation of The Missing Heir is still strong and delivers a mysterious narrative soundly. It's more Sherlock Holmes than Ace Attorney in its story delivery, and so it's a matter of appreciating how it's far ahead of its time when it first launched back in 1988. The core gameplay systems of The Missing Heir are largely similar to The Girl Who Stands Behind, where progression is based on conversations by asking the right prompts, and of course, being able to investigate and observe the various backgrounds, with the occasional interaction points. The progression is generally straightforward, and a notebook keeps track of all the necessary information of each of the characters. To help move things along, the game will occasionally highlight text and options in yellow as a hint. Now with the protagonist struggling with amnesia, a command unique to The Missing Heir is Remember, which at opportune times allows him to jog his memory and bring the missing pieces together. This gives The Missing Heir an edge over The Girl Who Stands Behind, as in a way players are trying to piece together two different mysteries at once. Even as an early example of detective adventure games, The Missing Heir brings a range of gameplay ideas and prompts to good use. And while sometimes it may feel you need to ask the same questions several times to make something happen, for the most part the detective work involves sound deduction. Famicom Detective Club The Missing Heir succeeds at bringing a modern remake of what was the lost piece of Nintendo history in the West. Alongside its prequel, it's a memorable revival of a true trailblazer in console adventure games. The story is well written, featuring layers of mystery and speculation that is worth investigating, and the polished visual style makes this classic adventure relevant to modern genre fans. Noisy Pixel is giving Famicom Detective Club The Missing Heir an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.